The new shortened layout for the Singapore Grand Prix that F1 will be racing on in real life later this year is now officially dropped into the F1 23 game in the brand new patch, along with a McLaren performance update to align it more with the real life performances we've seen in the last few races. Those are the big takeaways from the latest F1 23 patch 1.10. It's the first time ever I think we've seen on the official F1 games an update to a track in the middle of the season, in the middle of the game cycle. You know, think about other circuits that have slightly tweaked their layouts. We've always had to wait until the following game, the next year, to actually see that update. So it is fair play. I want to see more of this, you know, consistently seeing these updates in, you know, quicker turnaround time to how we see in real life. And then, of course, away from the track layout for Singapore, we also have an update to the McLaren team, which was much needed because McLaren, when you started the career, they were so much lower than where they even were pre-Silverstone. I'm talking even before, you know, they were fighting for some podiums. They were still so much slower than they actually were in real life. So now you can see they are actually very much nearly in line with Mercedes, with Aston Martin, which I think, you know, obviously track to track, they have slumped a little bit depending on the high speed versus low speed nature, but that seems about right and seems a bit better to where McLaren should be in the game, which is good to see. That will affect your current My Team and career mode saves, by the way, so look out for that in the R&D chart. And of course, Daniel Ricciardo is now in the F1 23 game officially. Of course, those of you who've watched my Team career mode, we already had Ricciardo for ages, already completed it, mate. But now it's all about the focus on this brand new Singapore layout. And so this is it, the corner off the hairpin in the last sector. Now, typically at this point, you'd be looking to start maybe lifting off, braking, and you'd be turning in around here. You can see that white line on the right. That's where the track was turning in. That was the edge of it. But now you're just full throttle, straight ahead, and then you feed in a lot more flowing into this right to left-hander to then the left corner. So that should actually invite some more overtaking, not only in that corner, but actually for the corners to follow, maybe if you're able to carry more speed and close up to cars with the straight line speed. And you can see that has also been reflected in the track map in-game as well. And now we're going to have a little race with Lando Norris at the back of the grid to not only experience the new Singapore layout in a GP scenario, but also just to test out what this McLaren performance is looking like. Is it realistic? Are we going to be able to climb back up to where we kind of should be now, you know, fighting maybe the Astons, and maybe if we get a good run in these opening laps, maybe even recover to fighting the Mercedes cars by the end of the race. We've had a very, very good start. To be fair, the AI were really quite poor actually off that. They were fighting each other way too much and able to thread ourselves through up into P15 already on lap 1. And of course, at this stage, at this point in the lap, this is normal Singapore GP. You know, we know it. There's Ricciardo in the AlphaTauri now. I want to point out, actually, by the way, though, I think the patch notes did say in current saves, Ricciardo will not be in the driver market, which is quite annoying and unfortunate. For those of us on PC, there is a way to get Ricciardo into the PC market with a mod, but if you're on consoles, you have to start a brand new save if you want Ricciardo available in the driver market, which maybe is not a big deal to a lot of people, but those of you who are big Ricciardo fans who want to sign him for your team, be it My Team or driver career, that's a little bit frustrating. I feel like they need to figure out a way how to affect current saves with those kind of updates as we overtake Rick Bobby in the AlphaTauri and come up to that new section here in Singapore. Now, we're not close enough to make a move on Zhou Guanyu right now, but what this straight allows us to do is catch up to Zhou a little bit more, you know. For me personally, hands up, I actually probably lose a bit of time in the old Sector 3 layout to the AI, to other drivers. And so this new layout actually allowing me to gain a bit more time on the driver ahead of me, not lose as much time, I should say. And that is going to invite me to then make a move on Zhou in Sector 1. So the straight itself, the new part of the circuit, either it's going to invite more overtaking in that actual part of the track, or I think it'll actually encourage you to close up and make further moves in Sector 1 rather. So either way, I think it's actually quite a positive change. It's a temporary change, I believe, because I think they're changing a bit of how the marina part of the circuit works. You know, where you used to go under the tunnel, you had that very, you know, dangerous corner where so many people used to crash in free practice. I think they're changing something about the layout, adding more grandstands, or just something's changing in that marina part. So it is a temporary change. So we will eventually get the old Singapore layout back in the game, back in real life. But for now, this temporary change, well, I don't know. If it works out really well in real life, I don't know if they're going to consider maybe keeping it. Because on the game, at least, I was really enjoying this change. And here, on the new straight, we're able to dive down the inside of Gasly. And that just wouldn't have been possible off the back of that twisting original Sector 3. You know, we were able to use a bit of ERS, really gain on him. You know, we were quite close through this right-hander, and this actual widening on that exit actually creates a new slingshot effect down this straight, get the power on, and then just get up behind him and then dive down the inside. And this corner now is opened up because you're going a bit quicker and you don't have that kind of awkwardness of overheating the tyres through Sector 3. Your tyres are actually at a good temperature, so you can take that corner a little bit quicker with a bit more momentum, I feel, compared to previously. And once again, really exactly what I wanted was back-to-back opportunities to make an overtake in this new layout. And so this is going to be 2 for 2 here, lap 3 to lap 4, this time on our own teammate Oscar Piastri. This time he defends on the inside, we go to the outside this time, but we're able to make the move. And that was a little bit trickier than versus the Alpine car in terms of catching him on that straight, but again, it just worked well. You know, invites a dive bomb basically. So yeah, positive change. I think I'm actually looking forward to maybe driving this track again, you know, on the game as a whole. I mean, Singapore, to be fair, on the F1 game's always been quite entertaining with the safety cars, and obviously now in the game red flags and such. But you know, with the shortened layout, it maybe makes it a bit less of a behemoth, you know, marathon monster when you play it on the F1 game. And then, like I said, for sure for me, I was always losing a bit of time in Sector 3. So for me, personally, a bit of positive. Obviously, if you are great in Sector 3 in Singapore, then maybe it's not so great. But I think it's going to be really interesting in real life. You know, this being in the game now before the Grand Prix, like I said at the start of the video, they need to do this more. They need to be able to update tracks like this rapidly, because you know what this has done? This is actually, this bodes well for real-life Formula 1, because now, having this in the game, having driven this in the game before the real-life Grand Prix, I'm now more excited for the real Singapore Grand Prix, even though I know Max Verstappen's going to win probably, unless Sergio Perez wants to bring out a masterclass once again at a street circuit. You know, even though that's stapled in, I'm excited to see the racing possible now, because I've seen it in the game. So I think they definitely, as a marketing strategy and just as a game dev strategy, they need to be working quicker like this to get new layouts, to get new changes. And I hope that, you know, goes and bleeds into other parts of the game, like car updates, etc. Could we get them quicker in the game, etc., etc. But we're moving on through this race. We made our pit stop. We started on medium, so now we're on the soft tyres and we're able to fight Fernando Alonso. We already overtook Lance Stroll, but this is the McLaren performance then really coming in. You know, if I was doing this pre-patch, there was no chance I would have caught up to the Aston Martin and the Mercedes, but we're able to overtake Alonso. Alonso gives us a good old fight though through on that straight, actually, because I didn't quite get him before, and I didn't quite get him into that last corner after the straight. You know, Alonso goes defensive, and this is another thing. It opens up this corner to become a bit of a battle zone, because you can keep side by side. Alonso keeps his foot in side by side through that subtle left-hander, and then you keep power on. We squeeze him to the right, but it's just a drag race then, and then you fight for the next corner, unlike in Sector 3 in the old one, where you'd back off and you have to go single file and you have to admit, oh, defeat, I can't overtake him here, gonna have to try again in Sector 1. No, you can actually get the move done now in Sector 3 as we close up now to Lewis Hamilton. And obviously we saw Lando and Lewis so close together for a lot of Zandvoort, for previous races as well. They've been very close together actually in recent races, so somewhat realistic here, seeing the McLaren now fighting the Mercedes cars, fighting Aston Martin. Obviously there probably still needs to be some subtle tweaks. I'm surprised McLaren was the only car that got affected. You know, they run the numbers, and clearly the dev team thought maybe other teams didn't need to move. I think maybe Alfa Romeo, a team like that's a bit too quick still, as we make a monster dive on Hamilton. I didn't mean to make that overtake, by the way. I was adjusting my ERS one-handed and I just outbraked myself, but it actually worked. I was able to make the corner and make that move there, so I won't take full credit for that. That really was not on purpose, but we make it work. We're splitting the two Mercedes cars, which seems right, kind of right about where McLaren are, kind of depending on the circuit, I guess. But yeah, I feel like Alfa Romeo probably needs a bit of a nerf. I think they're a bit quicker in the game than they are in real life, and potentially Haas needs a bit of a bump. And oh wow, that is something that's very unrealistic in the game, I must say. Max Verstappen with a DNF. He's not going to win this race. Are you kidding me? That is shambles, Codemasters. That is, Red Bull's reliability has been bulletproof this season, and DNF there for Verstappen. Unbelievable. Unbelievable, EA. Very unrealistic. Or I guess realistic in some way, because Sergio Perez now thinks he's going to go ahead and win this Grand Prix, and he's gone ahead and finessed another street circuit over Max Verstappen as he wins the race, headed to Ferraris. Russell maintains P4, just wasn't able to really make ends on him as my soft tyres ran out, but I think that seems pretty about where McLaren should be, to be honest. Splitting the Mercs, maybe one of them is a bit quicker than us. So yeah, good patch in terms of the McLaren performance, great patch in terms of the Singapore layout. Surprised to see it in the game. I wasn't expecting it, but really positive stuff, and I actually enjoy the layout, and I want to see more of this stuff when there's new layouts, you know, changes to circuits as a whole. You know, can we get a change to circuits like Spa now in the middle of the game cycle? You know, if you're able to change Singapore, why not other circuits? That's my big question and takeaway from this to EA and Codemasters. But guys, if you have enjoyed this video updating you on the patch and showing you the new Singapore GP layout, then be sure to hit the like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. And you're around here, then do get subscribed for weekly Formula 1 content. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.